She wrapped her shaking fingers in the hem of her sweater to avoid damaging any fingerprints as she slid open the rear patio door, following the trail of blood.
Blood? See? I told you this wasn't another one of your snoozy historical doorstops. This one's got juice. Welcome back to Heartbook Radio, folks, where we dissect the books you actually talk about, not the ones collecting dust on your professor's shelf.
And while Kendra Elliot's The Last Sister certainly possesses visceral elements, reducing it to mere juice.
We're talking The Last Sister. Small town, Oregon. Girl finds a body hanging 20 years after her dad was found hanging. Plus, her other sister vanished into thin air back then. It's like a family reunion planned by the Grim Reaper.
A rather evocative summary. The narrative centers on Emily Mills, who returns to her claustrophobic hometown and is immediately confronted by a murder mirroring her father's death 2 decades prior, a death shrouded in secrecy and coinciding with her sister Tara's disappearance.
Secrets. Exactly. And let's talk characters. Because wow! Emily finds bodies like I find half-eaten bags of chips in my car. Girl needs a trauma punch card, buy 9 traumas. Get the 10th free. Reviewers called her wooden. But wouldn't you be if your family history reads like a police blotter?
I believe Stoic might be more charitable. She's processing immense grief and suspicion. Her sister Madison, who stayed behind her silence, is practically a character in itself. The weight of unspoken history between them is palpable.
Palpable? She's sitting on 20 years of secrets. I was asleep, she says. Yeah, asleep like a fox. That girl knows where the bodies are buried, maybe literally. She probably needs more therapy than Emily. Reminds me of my cousin Carol after the... But Madison? Shady?
Speculation, though the narrative certainly invites it. And then there's the missing sister, Tara, a ghost haunting the present narrative.
Ghost sister. Did she do it? Is she living in a bunker, somewhere eating canned beans? Did she run off and join the circus? I bet she faked her death and is living large in Reno. That's way more interesting than whatever boring FBI guy Emily is making goo eyes at.
Agent Xander Wells. Yes, the romantic subplot involving the lead investigator and a key witness, whose family is central to the case, does raise certain ethical questions.
Ethical questions? The man's investigating murders possibly linked to KKK activity right under Emily's nose. And he's thinking about dinner dates. Slightly cancel-worthy. Honey, that's a 5, alarm fire. And don't get me started on Sheriff Clueless.
Sheriff Greer, his initial assessment of the second death as a murder-suicide, despite the obvious parallels and the hate symbol found, to stretch credulity, speaks to the small town's desire to bury unpleasant truths.
Bury truths? The guy's in denial. He probably thinks Bigfoot stole his newspaper. He's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. I bet he blames everything on teenagers. My neighbor Dale blames teenagers for his receding hairline. Same energy.
The question remains, is the book actually any good? It certainly generated discussion.
Good? Depends what you want. You want steamy romance. Forget it. One reviewer literally wrote the romance was non-existent. That's Spanish for, where's the kissing? They barely hold hands. It's called romantic suspense. Emphasis on romantic.
I'd argue the suspense element takes precedence, and rightly so given the subject matter. The atmosphere of dread, the slow unraveling of decades-old secrets, the undercurrent of racial tension linked to the potential KKK involvement, that's the core of the novel. Focusing excessively on romance would dilute the...
Dilute the what? The misery? Sometimes you need a little sugar with your cyanide. Okay, hypothetical. If Emily Mills were a sandwich, what kind would she be? I'm thinking stale white bread, a single slice of wilted lettuce, maybe some mayonnaise that's been left out too long. Needs more spice.
We received an email asking if the ounce were based on the Golden Girls.
That was a legit question from one. And yeah, the ounce. Nosy old biddies living in a creepy mansion. They were a hoot. Probably knew everything from day one. But were too busy arguing about prune juice to tell anyone. You know they spilled the beans accidentally while complaining about the why. Phi bill. Classic.
They served as repositories of local history, albeit eccentric ones. The structure, however, relies heavily on withheld information. Some found the eventual reveal of the killer abrupt, others praised the pacing. It's divisive.
Divisive like our infamous Moby Dick debate. You still think it's just about a whale, don't you?
The point is, The Last Sister provokes strong reactions. Some readers found it a gripping page, Turner steeped in atmosphere, others found the characters underdeveloped or the central mystery frustratingly drawn out.
Yeah. Frustrating like trying to get a straight answer out of Madison. Or Sheriff Doofus?
So the final verdict.
Okay, rating time. For the sheer awkwardness of finding 2 hanged bodies in your family's orbit, and the epic level of secret keeping, I give The Last Sister 8 out of 10 therapy sessions Emily desperately needs.
From a narrative standpoint, the exploration of buried trauma and small-town secrets is compelling, though hampered slightly by pacing issues and perhaps underdeveloped character motivations. I award it 6 out of 10 lingering questions, though your rating system remains nonsensical.
Says the guy who probably rates books based on semicolon usage.
Join us next week on Heartbook Radio when we tackle Gary the Sentient Mailbox and the Existential Crisis.
It's gonna be deep, or maybe just weird. See you then.